I want to watch this video about World of Warcraft. This
World of
one.
Warcraft is one of the most tragic victims of the modern gaming industry that brutally mishandles legendary IPs and turns them into shadows of their former selves. It's a textbook example of you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. In its foundations, Warcraft established a certain look or aesthetic for itself that made it really stand out in a sea of other titles in the fantasy genre. Most notably, despite their clear influences from other games, the races of Warcraft had their own flair about them that you could only find in Warcraft or WoW. However, over the years, we have seen a devastating shift in tone, writing, and art direction that have turned WoW from this vast, gritty fantasy that did have a bit of whimsy here and there.
Guys, this makes me cry. This makes me cry a little bit inside. You guys see the difference here? Guys, this is what we have now in World of Warcraft. And do you not see what we used to have, guys?
Turned WoW from this vast...
That's what we used to have. That's what we used to have. We used to have Arthas the Lich King wielding the Frostmourne, trying to kill everyone. And now we got Farron Lothar.
From this vast, gritty fantasy that did have a bit of whimsy here and there to a full-on Disney-fied version of its former
Guys,
self.
what is this How to Train Your Dragon bullshit?
Today, I want to talk a bit about how WoW lost its uniquely Warcraft identity, focusing mainly on art and aesthetics, and just have a bit of an honest discussion
That's
on
Dragon
what
Wild's
exactly went wrong
graphics.
and why it matters in the context of a changing, out-of-touch industry that has plunged many legendary franchises into an identity and aesthetic crisis. Before we get started, hi, my name is Angelica, and this is a video that I have been building up to for a while. It isn't a new discussion, but it's really important to me as somebody who grew up with Warcraft, and I am probably the way that I am because of it. Now, previously on this channel, we have had several in-depth discussion on the races of Warcraft and certain aesthetic and tone shifts that have fundamentally changed how they were even from Warcraft 3 to Vanilla WoW, or even some things that have straight up ruined everything that was unique about a particular race. It hits hardest with the Night Elves, as we have seen, where they went from these savage men and women.
I'd still play if it was gratifying to collect a mount. Are you trying to say they gave away too many easy mounts in the game? So it doesn't even feel good to collect them anymore? Damn. Scarcity is one of my favorite things in MMOs. If you don't have scarcity, you don't have anything. Because then nothing feels special anymore.
Who fought with a brutality that even the orcs couldn't believe, to please don't hurt my twee. You can check this video out if you want to hear about it in more detail, but for me this has sparked a wider discussion on where exactly WoW lost this brutal Warcraft essence and how did we get to these Disney vibes. Honestly, you don't really have to do any in-depth analysis to see that there is a massive difference between even these images here, as if they come from totally different universes. Everyone looks so bubbly, kind. Even the rougher options for faces look so soft and clean. It's missing that bit of spice that we saw with older models. And this bubbly, well-rounded and smooth kind of look really goes for how the rest of the world looks as well. Some people suggest that this is just the natural...
What I described retail, when you're running around, everything looks too anti-aliased and smooth. It doesn't look sharp. The weapons don't even look dangerous. Like, nothing looks dangerous in the game anymore. It's all like PG and Disney and like it literally is Disney.
Way that it progressed with these newer models, but I would argue that it definitely could have taken a different way if they wanted it to. Just look at these
I'm playing retail for the first time
and how much they resemble their Warcraft 3 selves. There was already a shift in tone from the start of vanilla World of Warcraft, but at that point it wasn't anything too egregious, even though it would have been nice to see them explore this particular look for humans. A more intimidating, sharper look, and something that made them stand out from humans in other
intimidating and sharper.
Warcraft 3 was a defining game for the overall look that made WoW so great. They established a very interesting balance between the masculine and the feminine that worked in harmony to amplify one another. By this, I mean it tapped into the side of fantasy that is Effortlessly, universally appealing. Strong, believable characters, flawed, but each with their own personalities and their own motivations when it comes to the greater fight for the good of their own race or whatever cause they support. A very mature approach that
Yeah, WoW died after Arthas. Guys, quick question. We're going to finish watching this. How the heck? Why can't I click this anymore? Why can't I be AFK anymore? Does anybody know? Has anybody ever mined shale before? Oh, you have to, they make you go here and then here. Okay. I see.
gave a lot of room for growth and a future for Warcraft. It reminds me of how The Lord of the Rings, particularly the movies, are so appealing to literally everyone. They never needed to overcompensate in a way that a lot of modern games and fantasy in general tends to do nowadays. For example, did you know that in total, if you take all of the main female characters and put their screen time together, you don't even get a full hour? And despite this, The Lord of the Rings has a massive female fanbase. Then we can look at the Rings of Power and how they massacred Galadriel's character to where she's no longer a strong, wise elf, but an insufferable girl boss who behaves like those main characters from the Disney shows. Everything feels over-exaggerated, overplayed, and unnatural. Warcraft had a place for everybody.
Damn. I didn't think about that with the Rings of Power. By the way, somebody said the Rings of Power just came out with a new trailer. But even the Rings of Power feels Disney. They're Disneyfying everything, guys, and they're ruining it. Go back and do things like the original Lord of the Rings and the original World of Warcraft, which were pretty much kind of like came out around the same time. Well, the movies did, and the game. Like that 2000 grit. We need the 2000 grit back, boys.
Not because they had to fit someone in to meet a quota, but because the world naturally formed in this way. In the RTS, for example, the Night Elves, despite being such a wild and brutal race, are actually a matriarchal society, and little things like even the in-game callouts are done with a female voice, as opposed to the other races that have male voice callouts. Modern WoW has a lot of flaws when it comes to writing, but particularly female characters feel so forced, unnatural, and like their motivation doesn't come from a genuine place, but instead it's all just sort of performative. Sylvanas went from the tragic survivor of the Lich King, the powerful Banshee Queen that unified the Forsaken, to a cartoony villain. The rest of the writing across the world, coupled with the cadence with which female characters speak, is just, it's Disney.
Is that?
Thoradin's Wall?
Oh, hell no.
Yes.
Then the stories and legends I read as a child were true.
True.
This is an infamous example. The way that it looks like a poorly made machinima from the
You know what? You know what this shit sounds like, guys? It sounds like she's about to break into a song. It literally, World of Warcraft she's right about to break into a musical. It's true. I remember when I was a kid, we didn't have walls like this. She's actually out there saying that.
general in an attempt to make games more appealing to women. This is the industry's idea of what is supposed to be appealing to women. A corporate-brained group of people that never really had interest in video games to begin with came up with this. An out-of-touch entity that has all of the power, but none of the creativity to bring Warcraft back to its former glory. Why is it that in order to appeal to female gamers, we need to infantilize the dialogue and the writing to Disney levels? Things like this are straight up insulting to everybody's intelligence. I wonder how it passed quality checks. Is there nobody there that listens back to this and says, hey, maybe this is a little bit silly? This is a little side note that
Seriously.
goes beyond World of Warcraft and shows you just how much the industry does not take female characters or female gamers seriously, and how much they misunderstand us. A recent example is God of War Laufey, which is such an unfortunate thing for me because a game along the lines of Heavenly Sword or a God of War game with a female protagonist does sound like it's something that would appeal to me, like I would be the target audience for that kind of game. But when I watched the showcase and heard little bits of her dialogue and what she was saying, I felt confused.
Okay. I think they're gone.
Just be careful. Where are we anyway?
Afterlife of the gods? I call it the everyone. So, what's the plan, boss?
Not your boss, Frank.
Why does she have to be so quirky, and why are we so afraid of or embarrassed by a true fantasy setting where people speak and act like they would in a serious, mature fantasy setting? Why is there a gelatinous cube named Frank? Where in Greek mythology did we have something like this? The creation of these cartoony girl bosses or quirk chunguses show that they don't really understand what made other fantasy titles so popular with female gamers. Look at things like Skyrim or even Elden Ring as like a really small example.
Hell yeah.
They are games that are just completely
Great
themselves.
games.
Every character fits naturally into their setting. There is no unnecessary comic relief to make female characters more relatable or less awkward, and there's no Disney-style over-narration of events to make sure that girls will understand what's going on. Those games are just good, and that is why everybody likes them. You don't have to overcompensate at every turn with...
She's going in heavy with the girl thing. Is that what World of Warcraft is trying to do? Like make more girls play the game or something with the way that it looks? I thought they were trying to appeal to kids. That's where we're going with the Disney stuff.
Cute and whimsical characters to get girls to play your game. I'm gonna say something, and it's that performative male feminism has majorly contributed to the industry's skewed and out-of-touch view of female gamers. When this sort of thing receives any bit of criticism, you'll have the white knights come out and say, oh, weak men, fragile masculinity, you hate women if you don't like this sort of thing. Okay, if you take actual incels out of the equation, which nobody really takes them seriously, the truth is that a female protagonist isn't the problem. If that were the case, so many massive franchises wouldn't have even been half as successful as they are. The problem is with modern developers that will...
A good example of a female protagonist, like a badass chick in a fantasy world, is like that Resident Evil chick. Is that Kate? No, Kate Beckinsale was like in the werewolf movie. Laura Croft, badass, bro. They need to keep that same energy. You know what I mean?
Take a legendary, well-established IP and use it as leverage to sell their own games with mediocre writing. Let's be honest, nobody would buy this if it didn't have the World of Warcraft label on it. We should not be focusing on the extremes that deflect from valid criticisms and concerns when it comes to things like this. Nobody who's normal has any real problem with a female game protagonist, but we also shouldn't reward mediocrity just because the protagonist is a woman. Performative male feminism has been incredibly damaging.
Wait, that was a bar right there. Quit saying, yeah, we gotta quit like hyping up these girls and saying they're badass just because they're a girl. If they're badass, then they're badass. You know what I mean?
To so many studios, including Blizzard, who did have a lot of skeletons in the closet of their own in real life, but they thought that it would be reasonable to turn women into fruit as compensation. I've asked this before, and I will ask this again. What message does this send about women's bodies, especially in a mature fantasy setting? It's hardly a children's game, if we're honest. I mean, most of the people that are playing World of Warcraft, at the least, would be in their mid-20s, but I'd say the average is like 30s, 40s, and above. And this is just part of the overall problem, but going
WoW's
back
got some
to
old
modern
people playing
or
the game.
retail WoW, when the harmonious
For real.
masculine and feminine elements of the game were neglected, toned down, and stripped back
I
for
play
a
that
more
game.
family-friendly version of the game or something that would appeal to more
I ain't playing
people,
that game, though.
it
No.
resulted
Whatever
in a
this
kind of a
is,
theme park.
This looks like it's marketed for 8-year-olds.
Or feel for the game. You try to make something that appeals to everybody, it then appeals to nobody. There is the added issue of too many things going on at once. There are too many races.
That is why RuneScape is so good, guys. RuneScape is so good, man, because it doesn't appeal to people that quit after they do the corrupted gauntlet. You know what I mean?
Many flashy mounts and toys, too many shop items, and it all creates visual noise. This is the backdrop, but in the foreground, the way that the characters are animated, how they move, how they run, cast spells, etc., is so overdone, and for me it plays like some cartoon or something that isn't really that serious. I think it's important to note just how impactful this change is. We went from these more grounded and down-to-earth animations to the more over-the-top variety that, perhaps because of what I'm used to, feels very unnatural and frantic. Recently, WoWcrendor did a video about why WoW isn't immersive anymore. Just on that conversation, a lot of these new locations with the latest expansions, for me, are a
Okay, but dude, the new Silver Moon is fucking badass. Like, the art team killed it. I was heavily immersed when I flew through Silver Moon for the first time in the new expansion. But other than that, everything else was not great. Okay?
little hard to appreciate with just how much is going on.
That shit,
it's not
like,
that these
when you
places
fly through
aren't
Silver Moon, you see
beautiful.
that thing,
There is
the
a
beam
certain
coming from the
charm there,
sky,
but
like,
I think that World of
you
Warcraft
feel like,
is a game that greatly
holy
benefits
crap.
from minimalism where
When you
possible
see that,
in terms
bro,
of world design.
that's
It is
crazy.
so much easier to get immersed in a simple, dark forest where the environment is made up of limited but effective components that get across how you're supposed to feel about this place and what it represents, as opposed to these massive, overblown, overly detailed locations where your eyes kind of don't know what to focus on in order to properly appreciate the setting. It's kind of a shame for the better designed parts of the game also, because this just completely clashes with it and takes away from any good art that's created in modern World of Warcraft. Just completely overshadowed by silliness and a general lack of direction. I think that the true Disneyfication started with Draenor when they had the catastrophic change in character models that all but wiped the core identities
polygons,
of
bro.
many of the races of Azeroth. But
it all
as time
happens
went
when
on,
polygons,
I think that
they
the
put
Disney
too many
element
polygons in
was
the
melded
faces.
together with a Fortnite element. Fortnite was a massive and game-changing influence all
Bro, they did Fortnite WoW. Kind of.
across the industry, especially with their specific approach to monetization. What started out with a simple skin shop and then turned into the battle pass where you could additionally earn currency,
Is that The Rock?
later grew into something that featured all kinds of things, including celebrity
Is that
cameos,
Travis
TV show
Scott?
cameos, cameos from other games. So when you go into a Fortnite lobby, everyone is just some different looking thing. There's no rhyme or reason, no harmony, but for a
God
game
dang
like
it.
Fortnite, this is fine. It's a battle royale. You're in, you're out. It's not that deep. I don't think anybody really cares about Fortnite
Dude,
lore
people
or
made
keeps up
bank
with
off
it
that.
unless they're like 6 or 7 years old. And to me, that's what a lot of World of Warcraft looks like now. I think transmog was a good idea at its conception, but also with all of the quirky cosmetics and things that don't really fit
God,
Warcraft
you guys
in its
are
original
idiots for
sense,
typing
cities
6-7.
and hubs can now look a little bit like a Fortnite lobby, just with all of the flashy mounts.
This
new
is the reason why
races,
they
and
changed the games to look
everything
like
else in
this,
between.
because
I
we're
think
adults
Dragonflight
typing
was the next
6-7.
major Disney-esque blow to Warcraft, something that really pushed
This
it
is
over
why
the
our
edge
games are
into a
ruined
more
now.
immature fantasy setting. People often misunderstand why there is still such a great appreciation for Warcraft in its earliest iterations, or World of Warcraft from vanilla to about Wrath. But it was just that no matter where you went, even if people were wearing mismatched gear, as you do while you're leveling, you looked like you belonged in this world. Old World of Warcraft is so loved by that side of the community because it's a game that has more than just gameplay going for it. You have gameplay at the center of everything, of course, but beside that you have lore, compelling storytelling, a sense of scale when it comes to the world, adventure, a unique identity and aesthetic, and of course the overall added bonus of nostalgia. You really cannot compete with nostalgia. For retail WoW, it feels like you just have gameplay. Because the only good things I ever hear about retail WoW is only ever just related to gameplay. I know a lot of classic versus retail discourse is around the difficulty level of the game. Some classic players say retail is too easy, and retail players argue that it's not. And to be fair, I actually can believe that retail WoW would be quite a bit more difficult. Early WoW was pretty simple if you think about it, and unless you're playing hardcore, it's not really that hard to get through the game. It takes a longer time, sure, and I think maybe certain parts of the game are harder than they
Hardcore's
would be in
best,
retail,
that's
but
why.
overall, when it comes to even the end game, I do think retail probably does have more challenging elements to it. I have been
Yes,
told
of
that
course.
I only dislike retail WoW because I'm just not good enough to play it. And here's what I'll tell you. I just don't even have an incentive to try. I don't want to try to be good at it. It just doesn't look like the kind of game that I want to play. A lot of it's just too smooth and polished, and it really feels disconnected from its roots. And
It
to
really
me,
is too
those are
smooth,
the
though.
things that are important. And in talking about this and in making videos like this, I have found an entire community of players like me that find value in the exact same things, and for the exact same reasons they cannot or they do not play retail WoW. I
Yep.
don't know what's going on in the lore anymore, and you know what? Nobody does.
Nobody
This
does.
was a major discussion in the community recently. Nobody has any idea
Nobody
what's going
cares
on. They've written
about
themselves into
anything.
a corner. We're probably gonna get like a ton of retcons or time travel or something, just like Mortal Kombat. The best thing that they've done recently seems to be housing. Everybody loved housing, and I'll be honest, I look at it and based on the kind of games that I play, I would probably interact with this and enjoy it quite a lot myself, but it's just still not enough of an incentive for me to want to come back to the game overall. There is such an unfortunate stigma around people who prefer classic WoW literally just for the way it
I
looks.
never tried the
Do you
housing.
know how many times I have been called a chud gamer for talking about this? What do you want me to say? The chuds yearn for storytelling. They yearn for lore, for gritty, dark fantasy with some whimsy here and there. A simpler time when the game didn't feel so confusing and silly. But let me tell you something right
Yup.
now, I have the solution. No, it is not to play Classic WoW. Those servers have a bunch of issues. We'll wait for Classic Plus. I'll keep my mind open. The solution, ladies and gentlemen, is to reject corporate slop and embrace tradition.
Yes,
If you
cancel
are
your
watching this video, then I'm
subscriptions.
telling you right now to go and install Warcraft 3 Reforged and go back to playing a real game. Not just the
Cancel
campaign,
your
but
subscriptions,
really play
boys.
Warcraft 3 PvP. Go watch a grubby video, go watch Happy play in a tournament, go learn a build order, and just get in the game. It has to be reforged, so we cannot escape all of the corporate slop, but you can toggle classic graphics and
That's right.
immerse yourself in a real, brutal, gritty Warcraft as
Warcraft
God
3.
intended. Oh, but you like decorating your house
It's
in
awesome,
retail World
man.
of Warcraft? Go build a base. Like a man. Or a woman. Some burrows or a ziggurat, whatever you're into. Go play a real game that still holds true to the roots of one of the greatest game franchises of all time. And then 1v1 me on the ladder, if you aren't chicken. But on a serious note, I maintain that everybody should be able to just play whatever they want, even if it is retail WoW. There's clearly still an audience for it. And even that audience, by the way, already has a lot to say about the writing and various other issues with the game. But in keeping with our previous discussions around the aesthetics
Yo,
of
this girl's
Warcraft and
based.
just the overall legendary vibes that we got from it that
She
just
knows what's
weren't
up.
recreated anywhere else ever, this was an important video for me to make, and that's why I made it. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this little rant on the Disneyfication of Warcraft.
What a
If you
great
did,
video.
please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. As always, huge shout out to my channel members. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you all in the next video. Be seeing you.
Nice, bro. Angelica Tosh, bro, with a banger on the Disneyfication of World of Warcraft. WoW is cooked, boys, which is why Classic WoW has to be good. Because if Classic WoW sucks, you know what we do, boys. We RuneScape it up. Let's go. RuneScape's our last hope. It's all we got left, boys. We got to hold on to it while we can. Because I don't know how much longer WoW has left. But to answer your question, is Classic Plus confirmed? Yes. Classic Plus is confirmed. BlizzCon is happening in literally 3 weeks. 3 weeks, guys. I will be live streaming at BlizzCon. And we will be there in the flesh.